I just want to let everybody know that we will unmute participants at the end of the presentations for question and answers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the question and answer section, typically found on the right-hand side of your screen. Also would like to mention that all attendees will receive a short survey from the U.S. Commercial Service after today's program, and we please ask you to respond to the survey because we take your answers and learn more about what type of educational programming you're interested in, and so it really does help us to determine what programs we should develop and provide to you. And tomorrow, because I am recording this, I will be sending out a copy of the presentation as well as the recording to all of the people who have registered today. And for those of you who may not have worked with the U.S. Commercial Service before, I'd just like to take a minute to let you know that we are the trade and investment arm of the U.S. federal government. We're a division of the International Trade Administration, which falls under the umbrella of the U.S. Department of Commerce. Our mission is to promote U.S. exports, protect U.S. commercial interests abroad, and facilitate foreign direct investment into the United States. We have a global reach. Our domestic field has over 100 offices. Internationally, our offices are located within U.S. embassies and consulates in over 70 countries. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our first presenter, Morgan Barr, and she is a senior international economist in the International Trade Administration's Office of Industry and Analysis Bureau, and that is also within the U.S. Department of Commerce. Her work has included several free trade agreement and WTO negotiations, coordination of the miscellaneous tariff bills process, and the development of data-driven market research tools for use by ITA staff and clients. Particularly, she has worked on the market diversification tool, which she will be going over today, and I think you will find it very useful. So thank you, Morgan. I'm going to shut off my video now just to save on bandwidth, and Morgan will be sharing her screen.
You can see my screen?
Yes.
Great, awesome. Okay. So today, most of what I will be going over is demoing right on the web, but you'll be getting a copy of a PowerPoint for reference that has screenshots, lots of links later. So the first thing I want to mention is that we have a ton of great articles on the site with answers to tons of common questions about exporting. So here I'm on Trade.gov. Trade.gov is the International Trade Administration's homepage. You can search for stuff by topic up here at the top. One of the things that is most searched for on the website is harmonized codes or HS codes. So I would type that in and do a search. And then I'll get the search results. And this first article on HS codes is our core article with our hub on harmonized codes. HS codes are really important, but they can be a little confusing. They are HS codes or harmonized system codes are a classification system used for goods trade around the world. Knowing the HS codes for your products is important because HS codes are used for a bunch of different things. They're used if you want to find trade data. That's how it's classified. You'll also need a version of your HS number called the Schedule B number when you're completing your export paperwork from the United States. Then you'll need a different version of that HS number to figure out the foreign country's tariff, do your shipping paperwork, your certificate of origin, all of that. And these are not all going to be the same number. One product is probably going to have different codes for a lot of these different uses. This article is really great resource for all things related to HS codes. If you scroll down, there's a video that gives you the basics on HS codes. There's lots of links to different sources for our different HS codes in the US. One of the most common questions we get is, how do I find my HS code? And so if I scroll down here under how to identify your product's US Schedule B code, there is a link to the Schedule B search tool, which I already have open on this page. So the Schedule B search engine is a tool from the Census Bureau, which is also part of the Department of Commerce. And we can use this tool to try to figure out where our product is classified. The Schedule B number, as I mentioned before, is the code we use in the US only, when classifying goods for export. So when you export goods over $2,500, or if you need an export license, you're going to have to report that export in the Automated Export System, or AES, which is an online system. And that's so Census can track US exports. This search is better than other searches because it allows you to use common terms for products. The harmonized system is pretty old and archaic, and it uses weird terms for things. For example, computers are only called automatic data processing machines. You will not find the word computer in the harmonized system. So this thing lets you use normal people terms. And then it's going to ask you questions to sort of zero in on exactly what your product is. So when you get to the page, it's very simple. There's just this box that says describe your product here. And I've picked a product that allows you to really see how the search engine works. So let's say we make air compressors for refrigerators. So I'll type air compressor in the box. It's giving me suggestions as I type, and then I'll click classify. So now it's going to ask us some additional questions about the air compressor. So here's what we know about your air compressor. Tell us more about the item. Is it a gas compressor or a instrument used in anesthesia? Well, it's not used in anesthesia, so I'm going to click gas compressor. And then it's going to say, what's the use? Refrigerating or freezing equipment, or other? We want the first one, but I'm just going to click other. And now it's asking about installation and function and operating mode. So it'll ask you all of these questions, and at the top, it'll have your answers, right? And until you get to a classification. But you can always go back up to the top and say, oh, I made the wrong choice here. So you can sort of backtrack and go down a different branch. So I'm going to go back to use, and I'm going to click refrigerating or freezing equipment, because that's what our product actually is. So now it has enough information to sort of tell us where the product is classified. And we see that 841430 here, this number, the 6-digit number right here, is compressors of a kind used in refrigerating equipment, including air conditioning. Beneath that, there's one line here for ones that aren't exceeding 1/4 horsepower. And then if I open up other and screw type and other, we can see there's lots of different numbers here. So one key thing to remember about HS numbers is that they are mostly harmonized internationally. So most countries use the same HS numbers, but only up to the first 6 digits. So that's that 841430. These longer numbers underneath it here are going to vary from country to country. Schedule B numbers are just used in the paperwork when you export. The HS number in the country you're exporting to is going to be different, but we can use this this search to get an idea of where our product is classified. It's a good starting point. And we can take this 6-digit number, which is, again, the same across most countries, and use it in other tools to look up tariffs, where we're exporting, do market research, find trade data, things like that. One of the things that we can use that 6-digit number for is the market diversification tool. So we have a ton of different, I'm going to actually go back to Trade.gov. We have a ton of different tools you can use to look up trade data, do market research. The best way to get to them is from the Trade.gov homepage. If you scroll down, there's a big box that says trade data and analysis. And that's going to take you here, which is our trade data and analysis hub. And it's got lots of links to trade statistics. There's monthly trade data here. There's national, state, metro trade, industry data. All of our key trade data links are going to come right off of this page. So it's a good starting point if later you need some trade data or have questions about that sort of thing. But I'm looking for the market diversification tool, which is down here under Explore a Market. And there's a link here, and that will take me to the market diversification tool page. But I'm going to actually go to the PowerPoint for a minute. So the market diversification tool uses your current trade patterns to make recommendations on additional markets you may want to consider. It's really a starting point for market research where you can get a quick idea of potential markets for your product and then refine your search from there with additional resources. It's also really flexible. You can run a quick search with basic parameters. You can get in the weeds and really tailor the search to your company's needs. So how does it work? First, it needs some information from you, such as your company's product or products that you currently export and where you're currently exporting. And then it uses this information in an algorithm that pulls in lots of other relevant data, things like trade, tariff data for the products you put in the tool, an assessment of the rule of law in each market, whether markets speak the same languages as they do where you're already exporting. And then all of this data is incorporated into the algorithm. Each of the indicators is assigned a specific weighting, and then it calculates scores for each country, and then the countries are ranked by the scores. You can then dig into the data used in the tool to determine why certain markets may have ranked higher or lower. You can modify the search to tailor it to your specific needs and access other resources to help you with your market research. There's 11 indicators in the tool used in the calculations. 3 of those are product specific. So that data is going to be specific to the HS 6-digit product or products that you've entered into the tool. The other 8 indicators on the right there are country level indicators, and they help show whether the market is generally a good place for exporting and doing business. A lot of those are going to be World Bank indicators, but there's also things like whether they have a free trade agreement with the United States. Each indicator is given its own weight in the equation. So that's how much does each indicator contribute to the overall score. All of those weights will add up to 100%. This is the breakdown of the standard weights in the tool. We've calibrated it, so we think that it's a good, the overall score is a good indication of whether a market is a good place to export. As you can see, historic trade, which is going to be the 5-year average imports of the product from the United States, has the heaviest weight in the standard weights at 50%. And then the trade growth indicator, which looks at sort of forward looking, what is the potential for US exports to grow in that country, has another 10% of the weight. So those two contribute 60% to the overall score. The biggest implication for these standard weights is that the countries that have historically imported the most from the US, so countries that are really big markets, they import a lot of stuff in general, or countries with a strong preference for American products in that HS number, those are going to tend to float to the top. But you can also adjust the weighting in the tool to address your specific needs. So I'm going to go back to the tool itself. So this is the home page, and you're going to see at the top, there's links to the different pages on the tool site. About the tool is going to have instructions on how to use the tool with a video that goes over things in a lot more detail than I am able to today. There's a page on interpreting your results. This page goes through how to look at the results, how the algorithm works, why markets may rank higher or lower, what the different indicators mean and where they come from. So that's a great reference later. There's also pages on FAQs. There's a data availability table explaining what data we use in the tool for each country. So what years of trade data are available and what year the tariff data is from. But right now I want to focus on the link in the center of the page, or you can click right here in the blue box, and that's going to take us to the tool itself. So this is the interface for the tool. The first thing we need is the HS numbers for the products we want to look at. Again, we define the products in the tool by their 6-digit harmonized system numbers. You can enter multiple HS numbers if you export multiple products. The tool will treat the products as a group and they'll add up the trade data. I recommend just entering 1 or 2 products at a time so you can clearly see the different trade patterns for the products. So I'm going to enter the HS number for air compressors that we were looking at before, which is 1430. And then we need to enter our current market. So this is where we're currently exporting. I'm going to imagine we're currently exporting to Canada, which is very typical of US exporters. 60% of US exporters only export to one market. So then below that, it says new market. So this, oh, sorry, you can also enter more than one current market as well. And that's fine. So down below this is, one other thing on current markets. We want the information on the current markets for a couple of reasons. So first, the tool is not going to recommend a country if you're already exporting there. So it's going to be like, hey, have you considered Canada? And second, the potential markets do get compared to current markets in a few ways, like whether they speak the same language. So that's why we're asking for your current markets. The new markets is what you want your search. What countries do you want included in your search? This is really important because the tool only compares the markets you select here. So if you just pick Europe, only European markets get included in the calculations. And then if you expand the search to the whole world, the scores and the rankings are going to change a lot because who you're comparing against each other is going to change. So there's 3 radio buttons here. Search all means searching the whole world. So that's going to be all the markets we have sufficient data for. Right now, that's about 125 countries. That's all the big ones. Some countries don't publish trade data or tariff data or aren't included in World Bank statistics. But we have 125 countries about in the tool. It changes as we update data. Specific regions lets you pick different regions. You can pick more than one region at a time as well. And then if you pick specific countries, that box will change to a country box. I recommend if you're picking specific countries, you pick at least 5. So there's a good group to compare against each other. If you just compare 2, it can't compare 1. And if you just pick a couple, it's not going to have enough to really give you the nuance in comparing the different countries. So I'm going to click search all. We'll just search the whole world. And then the last thing is your zip code. This information is not required. It's just going to help you connect to your local USIAC. I'm going to put code. So I'm going to put the zip code of and then I'm just going to click display the top 10 results. This doesn't change who's in the calculations. It just filters everything at the end. It just shows it. Then click submit. You'll see a calculating symbol and the results will appear just below the menu. So you can always scroll back up, change your search, and then scroll back. So here we see the description of the product we selected. So you can make sure you entered the correct HS number. And then if you print the results, that'll be at the top of the results. Below that is the ranking of the different countries. You can see the countries listed here in order of their scores, which are in bold next to the country name. The algorithm calculates an overall score for each market. Those are going to be from 0 to 100. And then there's a box for each country that's going to show you the average imports from the US. So that's that historic trade indicator and the maximum average tariff. But you can click the box and it'll open up and it'll show you all of the data that is used in the tool. And if you choose print results, which is up here, it will print, or you can save it as a PDF with these boxes open. So I wouldn't print it if you have chosen the whole world and not limited the results because it'll be a very long document. It can be a little difficult to sort of compare countries by clicking on the different boxes. You can also download all of the data as a CSV and then open it in Excel or any spreadsheet program. So let's see why Mexico is scoring so high. Here they have a score of 79.5, which is pretty high. And then the next few countries are in the 40s and 30s. This can happen if one country has the top or almost top scores in multiple indicators, or if it has the top score in that heaviest weighted indicator, which is historic trade. it can make one country stand out a lot while other scores sort of get bunched up together. And this especially happens when you're searching the whole world. So if we look at Mexico's data, we can see their average imports from the US are about $448 million a year, which is way higher than the next country down, which is only 82 million. And since historic trade is the heaviest weighted indicator, that's the big reason why Mexico is ranked first. If I open up the Mexico data, I can look at the contributors to that second ranked indicator, which is potential trade growth, which sort of looks at a couple of different things. It looks at import growth. Are there imports of that product increasing? Here they're not. Is there GDP increasing? Here it's not. And is there a share gap? So the share gap is a measurement comparing what share of Mexico's imports are coming from the United States versus what share of a similar region's imports of that product are coming from the US. If we're doing better in the region than in Mexico, then there's a share gap. Here, there's no share gap. We're probably doing better in Mexico than the region or the same. So what we're really seeing here is the dominance of that historic trade indicator. But we could change the weights to tailor the analysis to your needs. So if you really wanted faster growing markets, you could bump up historic trade. So you go to the blue box at the top that says result ranking. It'll open up and you'll see boxes for all the 11 indicators. They just need to add up to 1, so you can increase one and decrease another. If you click in the box, it'll give you a little explanation of each indicator. And below the update weights button, it'll tell you what your total is. If it's not 1, it won't let you update the weights. But if you changed it, update the weights, then the calculations down here are going to be different. So we also have suggested next steps underneath the results. It's going to give you, I guess I didn't put in a valid zip code. I thought I did. I'll have to check that. It will give you your local commercial service office, and then it'll give you suggestions on other stuff to look at. So our guide on interpreting your results, looking at more detailed trade data that's available, more detailed tariff data, additional market research, some of which Jackie is going to talk about in a little bit. So this is, again, just a starting point for market research. If you're exporting goods to one of our 20 free trade agreement partners, the FTA tariff tool is another really useful resource. And so if I went back to that trade data and analysis page and I scrolled back down to the section where I found the market diversification tool, the free trade agreement tariff tool is listed here as well. And that's going to take you to the FTA tariff tool homepage. The FTA tariff tool does a couple of things. It will show how a tariff under an agreement will be phased out over time and gives you the schedule, sort of the timeline for that phase out. But it also gives you the product-specific rule of origin for the product, which I will talk about more here in a minute. But let's look at an example of for the tool. So I'm just going to click FTA tariff tool, and that's going to take me to the interface, which is really easy to use. The first thing you need to choose is whether you are exporting goods from the US to an FTA partner or importing from an FTA partner. And I'm going to select exporting. And then we need to pick an FTA partner here in this second box. Mexico was the top market in our search in the market diversification tool. So I'm just going to pick that. Let me scroll down and pick Mexico. And then we're going to use our same HS code that we were using before, which is 8414. Search. And it will give me all of the lines in Mexico's tariff schedule in 30. Just a couple of things to note about the HS numbers in the tool. So the HS numbers used in the FTA tariff tool are from the schedules when the agreement was negotiated. So they may not match exactly the country's current schedule. And this is because HS numbers get updated over time. One way they're updated is every 5 years, they're updated internationally to account for new products and changes in trade patterns. So for example, this year with the newest nomenclature change, smartphones finally got their own 6-digit number. So we can look at trade in smartphones internationally for the first time. The year the change is made is called the nomenclature, and the current nomenclature is HS 2022. Here we're looking at the USMCA, which was just negotiated a couple years ago in this Mexico example, but many US agreements were negotiated in HS 2002. So that was quite an old nomenclature. Countries also update and revise their tariff schedules over time. Like the US changes its tariff schedule several times per year. Usually it's just minor changes. But if you have trouble when you're searching, I recommend trying to search using the first 4 digits instead of the first 6 digits of the HS number and go from there to cast a wider net. And then you can look at the descriptions of the product. But ultimately, it's going to be the prerogative of the importing country to determine where your product is classified when you're exporting. Let me go back to the results. So here, again, it has all of the national tariff lines from the USMCA, which was the replacement for NAFTA that was negotiated a few years ago. The 6-digit descriptions, which are here, are going to be in English, but the national line descriptions, which is what this is, are going to be in the language of the importing country. So here it's Spanish. So you would need to figure out which one most closely matches our product. I'm just going to pick the first one. If I click on the HS number, it will open up a little box. And it's got the HS code, the tariff line description, and the staging basket. So a staging basket is the period of time in the agreement before the product is duty free. So it'll say like immediate, 3 years, 5 years, etc. This was immediate, so it was duty free on implementation of the agreement. If it was not immediate, it would have the tariff rate going down over time in this little table here. But it's immediate, so it starts at 0. And then below the tariff is the rule of origin. So that's what this is here. And there's a link to additional information on rules of origin. So let me go back to the presentation because rules of origin are super important. Rules of origin are another topic that we get a lot of questions about because they can be a little confusing. If we have an FTA with Mexico and Canada here, the USMCA, we don't want goods from other countries to benefit from that agreement and say, hey, I want the USMCA cheaper rate. So in every agreement, we negotiate rules of origin as part of negotiating the agreement, and they determine what counts as a USMCA product under the agreement. They can be very specific and vary from product to product, so we often call them product-specific rules of origin. So rules of origin are used when there is non-FTA content in the product. If the whole thing is made in the US, right, then you know it's a US product. But usually you've got components or inputs from different countries. So let's say we're making a table using imported wood from China. The most common rule of origin is what's called a tariff shift. And this is based on the change in tariff classification between the components and the finished product. So the components were classified in this HS number and the final product is classified over there. So here's the rule of origin for a wooden kitchen table from the US-Australia FTA. And it starts with a change in subheading 940310 to 940380, which is where tables are classified from any other heading. So if we start with wood, which is classified in chapter 44, turn that into a table in 940340, that meets this subheading tariff shift requirement. And so this is the kind of rule of origin in our air compressor example. So here it says a change in subheading from any other subheading except this one. And this is where parts are for vacuum pumps. So it's kind of saying you can't just use imported parts and assemble them. You have to do more manufacturing than that. But this example from the Australia FTA has 2 parts, and it's an either or. So you can do the tariff shift, or this other part here is talking about regional value content. And regional value content is sort of the other big type of product-specific rule of origin. And it says that the good needs to have a certain percentage of FTA content. So that's value added from the US or the FTA partners in the agreement. And this can come from materials from the US or the FTA partners, skilled labor. There's different ways of calculating it. And our FTAs use different formulas for calculating our VCs. And it's going to tell you in the rule of origin which formula you should use. These formulas are things like net cost, transaction value, build up, build down. So that's the sort of terminology you're going to hear. This article linked here has examples on how to do each type of calculation. And again, just in closing, if you go back to the FTA Tariff Tool homepage, there are links to all of this stuff about HS codes, rules of origin, certificates of origin, which are the paperwork you have to do to claim and prove that you are meeting the rule of origin. There's links to all of this here because we have great articles on Trade.gov for all of this stuff. So you're not alone. There's lots of explainers on how to do, how to find your information and how to do the math and the paperwork and things like that. So that's all I have. I will turn it back over to Jackie.
Hi, thank you. So hold on one second. Morgan, while we have you on, and as I'm flipping through the slide deck here, can you say just something quickly about on free trade agreements, what tariff gets reduced? Because I know I'm going to be pointing out in a second that the free trade agreements don't necessarily eliminate all of the potential line item tariffs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's going to eliminate tariffs, but there's other taxes involved. Yeah. So you might have to pay VAT taxes, value added taxes, which we don't have in the US. People are often surprised to find that they have to pay them when exporting to another country. Yeah, those are not eliminated. Other taxes, there might be caps on them sometimes. Like there's different rules that sometimes limit the kinds of things that they can charge under the FTA. But yes, you will still find other taxes that everyone has to pay when exporting to that country. So it doesn't eliminate everything.
Everything. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then for those of you who are new to the HS, thank you, Morgan. I just also want to mention, in HS code, each product, they put it in by categories, as you were seeing Morgan go through that process. So it's more of a categorization of the product as opposed to specific for each particular product. Sometimes people can get caught up looking for a description that specifically fits their product, and there may not be one there. But I'll also point out, as Morgan did, that there's an 800 number on the bottom of the Schedule B search engine that you can call if you need additional assistance when you're looking up and trying to identify the HS code for your product. So what I'm going to be talking about is just a little bit of additional information. So as we were just mentioning, the FTAs only eliminate one line item of tariff, and there may be, depending on the country you're exporting to, if it is a part of a free trade agreement, there may be additional charges that you need to identify. Or if it's a country where we don't have a free trade agreement, you're going to need to know where and what type of tariffs and duties are going to be assessed on that product as it's crossing the border in the import country. And it's always great for companies to know that before they start selling, or if you start negotiating with somebody, because you want to have a better understanding of what your buyer is actually going to be paying for your product. So instead of doing a live presentation from the internet, I was having bad internet, so I wanted to make sure that you'd be able to see everything and there wouldn't be issues. So I just turned screenshots into the PowerPoint presentation. So for me, and there are a couple of different ways to get to this information, but I went into Export Solutions Overview, find your tariff rate, and this is going to bring us to the other database that we use called Customs Info Database. And this is, again, where you would use your HS code to look up the import tariff and duties assessed on your product. So if it's your first time using the Customs Info Database, you are considered a new Trade.gov user. So you're just going to click on this blue link, and then it's going to open up this form for you. Complete the form with the necessary information. Make sure you click this box at the bottom, and then the submit button will become highlighted for you. You click submit. You'll receive this page telling you that a verification email has been sent to your email address. Please make sure if you have a focused inbox and an other inbox or a spam inbox that you look in all your inboxes for that. Once you click on the verification email, then you're going to come back to this page and you're going to log into the system. At that point, you're going to see this screen. And so this information is brought to us, and really this program, Customs Info Database, is through Discardus, which is a freight forwarding company. So you're just going to put your email address in and hit the login button, and then you will be in the system. Okay. So when you're looking in this is what gets opened for you. Step one, you're going to click on this little down arrow in a drop-down list of all the countries that are accessible through this system that are available to you, and you're going to click on the country that you are intending to sell your product to. Then you're going to put in your 6-digit tariff code, your 6-digit HS code that you just found with Morgan's assistance. And then you're going to hit the third is search. Once you hit the search button, it's going to populate this lower area down here. If you can see right here, there's 4 different tabs. This is the result tab. So once you hit the search button, it will populate this area. What this is doing is providing you with the codes that the importing country uses to further identify your product. Because again, the HS codes are used to not only identify tariffs and duties, they're also used for customs officials to identify what regulations apply to your product, so they are important. What it's done here is it provides you with the 10-digit code for the country of import. And you're going to look and select which one of these codes is best describes your particular product. I use a different HS code than Morgan. So this one is in relation to washing preparations and soaps. So you click on here, step 4, to select the full H code. And then you're going to see here, it populates this section up here. What you want to do is you want to know that this section here needs to state full HS code in order to move to the next step, which is step 5, and that's going to this duties and taxes tab. Once you click here, oh, and sorry, the highlight actually looks like it blacked out the United States. Once you click on duties and taxes, you're going to just check to make sure that the country of origin is the United States and the country of shipment is the United States. So this is where the product is leaving from. And then you're going to hit the calculate button. Once you do that, it is going to actually generate this information for you. So it's going to provide you with the description of the product here. You can also confirm that you are looking at the correct HS code, and again, with the description. The one thing I want to point out here is with Germany, we do not have a free trade agreement. So this will be populating. This particular country only has one line item of tariff, and it has a VAT, which is a value added tax, which I'll be showing you on the next screen. Had I selected, say, Brazil, Brazil has, I think, almost 12 line items of different tariffs and duties that it assesses to products. So this is really useful information for you. I also want to point out that it has this print button. So if you hit the print button, it will pull it up as a PDF, so you can either print it out or you can save it to your files. And here, this is just the bottom half of that page. So it's second tariff rate for Germany. There, it's free, but then it does have the VAT, which is the value added tax. And for everyone's awareness, everywhere in the EU has a VAT tax or value added tax, I should say, and it runs usually between 18 and 21%. What I did down here is I just did an example for you. Tariff 1, which was listed on the prior slide, is 4% of what's called CIF, which is cost, insurance, and freight. And then the value added tax, VAT, which is 19%, as you can see here. And that is calculated on the cost, insurance, and freight plus the duty. So in this example, for ease of mathematics, I put it in as a $10,000 shipment. The insurance on this shipment is $1,000. The cost to actually ship it is $1,500. So your CIF value that you're starting off with is $12,500. And then I'm calculating that dollar amount times the tariff. So here's your 4%. So for that, it's $500. The VAT, which is at 19%, is $24.70. So the total amount of tariffs and taxes being assessed on this product as it enters Germany is just under $3,000. So again, something to consider when you're shipping and when you're developing sales contracts overseas, is to consider which person is responsible for paying those tariffs and duties on the import side when it's crossing the border. We're not discussing it today, but you can look on our website for international terms of trade, which are referred to as Incoterms, and they basically are used in sales contracts, in contracts with your distributors, to identify the shipping method that's going to be used, and at what point during the process of the movement of goods, the responsibility for the goods, the payment of the tariffs, when it shifts from the exporter to the importer. If anybody has further questions about that, be more than happy. Feel free to email me, and we can discuss that at a later date. But I just wanted to mention that. And then what I wanted to talk a little bit further about is delve into some of the other resources on Trade.gov that assist companies with identifying their best potential markets. And I apologize, this I believe was supposed to be on country. It's overlapped on the slide, and so sometimes when the slide moves, the circle moves on where it's supposed to be. I will correct that before I send it out to you. But we're under the research center, and I believe this is supposed to be research, yes, by country. So when you hit research by country, you scroll down a little further, you're going to come to what's called the country commercial guide. This country commercial guide is set up the same way for all of the markets. So you're going to click on this, which is going to bring you to this screen where we're separated out by regions of the world. Again, you'll click on, so for this, it would be for Germany, it would be Europe. You click on this drop down, you select Germany, and it will automatically bring up the country commercial guide for Germany. These guides are developed by our trade specialists located in that market. So we typically have, depending on the size of the market, we could either have multiple offices, but we will usually at minimum have one office with multiple people working there. Typically, there'll be a US citizen working there as well as a citizen or two of that country. Their responsibility and all of our responsibilities as international trade specialists are to understand industries and understand markets. So the way we break this up is in Connecticut, I handle the healthcare market, I handle the design and construction market. So it's really on me to have a good understanding of those markets. And they do the same type of split when it comes to our colleagues overseas. They are also split up by specialty. So I see we're running a little short on time, so I want to make sure if people have question and answer, I'm going to just go through this guide. So you click on the guide, and as I was saying, there should be guides for really most of the major markets and really most markets in general. And you'll notice that the guides all have the same table of contents: the doing business in, leading sectors, customs regulations and standards. So these are a great starting point for you to better understand the market and maybe some of the challenges and any type of requirements. Oops, sorry. So there's also trade barriers listed here. And as I was saying, there'll be some labeling requirements. There'll be links to other resources. So this is great information for you as you're looking to identify potential markets. Right, and now we are going into some additional research for foreign markets. Yeah, sorry, somehow my slides got mixed up. So for the market intelligence, this is another section, and I apologize. This is under research foreign markets. I wanted to show you there's even deeper information that you can find out in particular sectors for markets. So for US business, under export solutions, you will find research markets. And then I dropped down and went into market intelligence. Sorry about that. All right. So once you hit market intelligence by country, it will bring up this list of countries. And so this is basically the page scrolls down further. It's in alphabetical order, so it's not separated by region the way the country commercial guides are. And you just click on the market. And for this one, I'm using Germany again as an example. And for this German market, you can see they have information in the energy sector. There are different sectors that you can check off when you're looking through this. And these are short, I would say, you know, sometimes there'll be several pages. Other times they might just be a few paragraphs. It might be an update about particular changes in the market for that product or in that industry. But it's really great because it's coming from our colleagues in that market, and they really have firsthand knowledge of what's going on. And then you can see here, it's got fintech, entertainment, and economic overview. And if I remember correctly, there were probably 2 pages of market intelligence reports for Germany that you can look through and find out more in-depth information about the industry that you're looking at in Germany in general as a market. And here I just opened up what one of these particular intelligence reports looks like, just so that you can see it. And so in addition to that, that's if you're looking specific for a market. So maybe your market diversification, your market diversification tool report showed that Germany was one of your top markets. So you want to explore that further. The information I just shared with you can help you do that. There's other ways to also access information on our website, and that's not just market specific, but it's industry specific. So here, again, US business, I'm going into the research center and I'm researching by industry. And here you'll have a list of all the industries where we have groups that focus on that particular industry. So there's a team here in the United States that focuses on aerospace and defense. That's comprised of trade specialists from all over the country, as well as all over the world, who are on that team and focusing on that particular industry. And so we have, I think it's between 15 and 20 different industry focuses that we work on. If you go in, again, I went into the energy sector. It's going to start telling you some more information about that sector and important things that you need to know. You can see here on the left toolbar how it breaks it down into the subsectors under energy, so you can find out specific information that is more tailored to the niche part of the market that you are looking to find out more information about. And then the other piece that I wanted to point out to you is if you find that we have an industry indicated in this resource on our website, as I was saying earlier, it means that we have a team of folks that focuses on this industry. If you click on the Get Industry Updates here at the bottom, it will actually bring you to a page where you can sign up for industry updates. And this is kind of separate from maybe the mailings that you get. If you're already a client of ours, you go into our client database, you'll probably receive monthly newsletters, you'll receive information about ongoing events that we're having. But when you get into these industry updates, these are going to come specifically from the team of trade specialists who work in that industry, and they will typically send out an industry only focused newsletter, as well as industry focused events, seminars, and things of that nature that are coming up. And thank you. That is everything that I wanted to share with you today. We have just the splash page here. This is a local office in Connecticut, and we're available here for your support. If there is anybody who have any questions, please please feel free to reach out to any one of us. I'm going to open up for question and answer. I'm going to stop recording right now. So thank you. And I'd like to thank Morgan Barr and Samantha for assisting me with this webinar and for popping in all the appropriate links in the chat.